I wasn't invited, not this year, not the year before, not for the last 8 years. The email arrived on a Wednesday morning with a subject line so cheerful it almost felt like a joke. Caldwell Family Lake Weekend 2026 RSVP by Monday. It wasn't meant for me, I knew that before I even opened it, but I opened it anyway. Everyone was there. Zoe, of course, with her fiancé and their golden retriever. Aunt Elise flying in from Bozeman. Uncle Carl with that rusty tackle box he treated like buried treasure. Even Cousin Brittany, the one who blamed me when her car got towed in college. I could picture every one of them sitting around the long pine table on the porch, laughing like they always did. Everyone was there except me, not even a typo version of my name, no Kayla, no trace, just blank space where I should have been. That kind of silence doesn't shout. It hums quietly in the background until one day you realize it's been there for years. I sat in my Chicago high-rise office 35 floors above the loop staring at the email on my screen. Corner suite, frosted glass doors, awards lined neatly along the shelves, the kind of office people spend decades trying to reach, but the sunlight felt sterile and my coffee had gone cold. I read the email again and noticed the location tag at the bottom, the beach house, the one where the reunion always happened, pale cedar shingles on the bluff overlooking Lake Michigan. A porch hammock that creaked in the wind. Wind chimes my mom hung by the kitchen window, the last place I ever saw her laugh so hard she had to grab the railing to steady herself. My stomach tightened as I searched the address online almost out of habit, and there it was, a real estate listing, not for rent, for sale, price reduced, quick close preferred, no phone call. No family heads up, just a quiet disappearance. The listing photos showed the same porch, the same dock, the same kitchen table where my mom used to serve blueberry pancakes on Sunday mornings. The realtor's name jumped out at me too, the same agent who sold my aunt's cottage 2 years earlier. That was the moment the air in my office changed. They were selling it, quietly. Just like they erased me, like I was another inconvenient thing to clear out of the family story. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the ceiling. On the cabinet beside me sat a small driftwood heart my mother gave me when I was 10 years old. I picked it up and turned it over in my hand. "You don't break, Kayla," she had whispered the day she gave it to me. "You reshape. Don't ever let them make you small." Her voice echoed in my head all those years later as I sat there looking at the listing. That was when the idea started forming. Because the truth about being erased is that nobody announces it. It happens slowly, a missed birthday call, a family photo where you've been cropped out. A holiday dinner where your chair disappears and nobody mentions it. At first I tried to fight it. I sent birthday gifts. I stayed in the family group chat when my name still showed up in the thread. I flew home for Christmas even when the flight cost more than a month of groceries during grad school. I offered to help pay Aunt Elise's medical bills when Zoe's fiancé lost his job. I did what youngest daughters often do. I showed up, I stayed kind, I stayed useful, but useful has an expiration date. Zoe had always been the star of the family, vibrant, Instagram perfect. Loud in a way people found charming, she planned themed brunches and engagement parties. Once she even FaceTimed me from a party supply store asking if the lake house table should be coral or sage that year. I told her I might not make it because of work deadlines. "That's okay," she said cheerfully, "we'll save you a plate." But things changed after our mom got sick. I came home and sat through oncology appointments while Zoe said the stress was too much for her. I held Mom's hand when the chemo started taking her hair. I brought soup and books and soft blankets. One evening while we sat together on the porch, I asked Mom gently how the estate was structured, not because I cared about money, just because I wanted to understand. She smiled like I'd asked something slightly inappropriate. "Zoe and I already sorted that," she said softly. "You just focus on your work." The last time I visited the lake house after Mom passed, the keypad code didn't work. Zoe told me they had changed the security after a break-in. Funny thing was, I had never heard about any break-in before that day. After that, I stopped visiting, but I didn't stop paying attention. Madison, our old babysitter who now worked in legal aid, still sent me occasional updates. "They act like you vanished," she told me once over the phone. "But honestly, I think you just stopped knocking." She was right, I hadn't vanished, I had been waiting. Because sometimes the people who erase you the fastest are the ones most afraid of what happens if you return. I didn't buy the lake house for revenge. I bought it because I was done pretending my absence was an accident. The listing had been live for nearly 2 weeks before I found it buried in a lakeside property newsletter. The house wasn't even listed under our family name anymore. It had been moved into an anonymous LLC, something Zoe probably created after Mom passed away. Clean, quiet, hard to trace. But I work in corporate finance. I've built those same shells for clients hiding properties and assets they didn't want tied to their names. I didn't get angry, I got organized. I printed the listing documents, called an old friend from law school, and then dialed Madison that evening. "You're not going to believe this," she said the moment she picked up. "They're planning the lake weekend right now." I smiled slightly, looking again at the listing price on my screen. "Oh," I said calmly. "I believe it." Then I opened a new email to the realtor and typed 6 simple words that would change the entire reunion. "I'd like to make a full-price offer." And for the first time in 8 years, I knew exactly where I'd be spending Lake Weekend, not as the forgotten daughter. As the owner of the house they thought they had quietly erased me from. Within minutes, she pulled a title history, and there it was, a clause in the trust, still bearing Dad's original signature. A fallback clause triggered by delinquency, missed taxes, expired insurance, or failure to disclose a title change. If any of those occurred, the secondary beneficiary, me, could assume full claim. Turns out the taxes had lapsed, so had the coverage. Not malice, just arrogance. And they thought the house could sit empty, untended until they made a decision, but Dad had planned for more than sentiment. Madison's voice was gentle. "If you want it, Kayla, it's yours." No lawsuit, no drama. I didn't respond right away. I just stared at the driftwood heart on my shelf, the one Mom handed me when I was 10. I remembered her brushing sand from it, eyes sparkling. "You don't break, Kayla," she'd whispered, "you reshape." That night I opened a clean spreadsheet, stocks, equity, my emergency fund. I wasn't flashy like Zoe's curated social feed, but I was solid. 2 days later, I called the agent. She didn't recognize my name at first until I said, "Kayla Morgan, daughter of Ellen." There was a pause. "Oh, you're the other one," the other one. I signed the title quietly under fallback rights. Then I booked the master suite for 3 nights. Guest name K. Morgan. If you've ever felt like the forgotten one, quietly rewriting your own ending, subscribe and stay with me, because this story isn't over. And the next chapter, it's when the door finally opens. Under preferences, I typed calmly but deliberately, "Please place a bottle of Perrier on ice. Guest prefers firm pillows, cotton sheets, and full privacy." When the confirmation arrived, I didn't smile. I didn't cry, I just sat still. They had removed me from the invitation. I had added myself to the deed. Arrived early, not to greet anyone or watch, but to walk through the house one last time before they filled it again. It looked smaller now, or maybe I had simply grown. The porch swing was still crooked. The shutters were sun-bleached and peeling. Someone had swapped the wrought iron lantern for a flimsy solar bulb, but the wind still made it sway gently, as if whispering, "You made it back." I checked the sweet champagne on ice. Sheets turned down, and for once my name was spelled correctly on the registry. Then I left. I parked 2 streets away in a borrowed Toyota and waited. At 6:42 p.m., Zoe's gleaming white BMW pulled into the gravel driveway. Her husband hopped out, tugging suitcases. The twins exploded from the back seat mid-argument. Zoe emerged last, sunglasses high, her expression fixed in curated elegance. Mom followed soon after, riding in Aunt Elise's crossover. Linen pants, suit, pearls, a dusting of lip gloss, armor for gracious avoidance. They moved toward the front desk, rolling luggage, chattering, laughing, then stillness. The receptionist, a soft-spoken girl with silver hoops and a pixie cut, scanned the system and said it without emotion. "I'm sorry, I don't see your names. Are you guests of Miss Kayla Morgan?" Zoe blinked. "Excuse me, Miss Kayla Morgan has the full reservation." The air shifted. That kind of silence doesn't ask questions, it rewrites the scene. I stepped out of the car not for drama, just because it was time. My heels clicked on the slate floor as I entered. "I can clarify," I said gently. "I'm Kayla Morgan, the deed finalized 2 weeks ago." Zoe's face went pale. "You bought the house?" "Yes." Mom's voice cracked. "But why?" I met her eyes, not cold, just resolute. "Because I was never invited, but I was never gone." Zoe took a step forward, voice sharp. "You think this is some kind of power play?" "No," I said, pausing just long enough. "This is closure. It settled something." I handed my ID to the clerk. "Anyone not on my guest list should be politely escorted. But don't be harsh," I added, voice calm. "They're still family." The clerk hesitated, then gave a quiet nod. Behind me, no one spoke. Not Zoe, not Mom, not Aunt Elise. The silence pressed down like fog. Let them explain it to each other. Let them say my name out loud. I didn't need to. They walked away from the desk with brittle shoulders and no words. No tantrum, no drama, just a long, uncomfortable hush that followed them like smoke. I didn't follow, I didn't need to. They knew now, that was enough, or so I thought. The next morning, I noticed the van just beyond the hedge, white-blue letters on the side, local news. A man with stiff hair and a too-tight blazer stood near the driveway, mic in hand, squinting into the camera like he was exposing a national scandal. I didn't open the door, but the moment the clip aired, my phone exploded. Texts, missed calls, an email from a college classmate I hadn't heard from in 10 years. "Is it true? Did you really take the family house from under them while your dad was sick?" The headline ran in all caps. "Daughter uses trust clothes to boot family from lakefront legacy." They painted me as some designer-clad villain with a heart of ice. The article quoted a close family source who claimed my father had been in cognitive decline when he signed everything away. No names, but I didn't need names. Zoe had always known how to dress up betrayal in sympathy. I didn't cry, didn't post a rebuttal. I called Madison. "It's time," I said. She didn't ask what I meant. 15 minutes later, she sent a secure folder, clean timestamped documentation, screenshots of text between Zoe and Mom. "Don't worry, Kayla's not coming again. She only shows up to be seen. She's not really part of this anymore." And then the video. 2 summers ago, my dad wrapped in a blanket on the back deck, cradling a chipped mug. I sat beside him just outside the frame. His voice was weathered but sure. "I want Kayla to have this place," my father said in the video. "Zoe makes things loud, but Kayla makes things last." I hadn't watched the recording since the day we made it. I had saved it for a moment like this. The next morning, I uploaded the video and supporting files to a private drive. I sent the link to just one journalist, someone I'd met years ago at a corporate fundraiser, a writer who had covered elder care, estate disputes, and silent battles no one talks about. No captions, no spin, just a message. "This is the full story. Decide what matters." It didn't go viral. It didn't need to. By late afternoon, the original headline vanished. The station posted a quiet correction on their website. The text slowed, the emails too. That night, Madison messaged me just 3 words. "They're quiet. You ready?" I stood by the lakehouse window, staring out at the dark ripple of water beneath the moonlight. I replied, "Yes." The courthouse smelled like lemon cleaner and old paper. I arrived early. No entourage, no polished legal team, just me. I wore a navy dress. My grandmother once called steel-willed blue, and carried a simple folder, the kind no one expects to matter until it opens. Zoe was already there, white pantsuit, jaw clenched tight. She didn't turn to look, but I saw her thumb tapping furiously against her phone screen. Mom sat beside her, chin high, pearls trembling with each shallow breath. The clerk called the case Morgan v. Morgan, petition for injunction, disputed estate, claim of undue influence. Their lawyer stood first, confident, overpracticed. He used words like vulnerable, estranged, coerced. He let them float heavily in the air like he was asking the room to pity the very people who had erased me. I didn't react. When it was my turn, I rose quietly. No drama, just truth. Your Honor, I'd like to submit audio and video evidence related to the original trust and my father's explicit intent. The judge nodded, the lights dimmed. And there he was, my father wrapped in a worn blanket holding a chipped mug. I want Kayla to have this place, he said, voice steady. Zoe makes things loud, Kayla makes things last. She's the only one who came after the fall, the only one who never asked. A pause, then he looked at the lens and said, it's not about fairness, it's about memory. I watched the room. Mom blinked too fast, Zoe's jaw clenched, the muscle twitching just beneath her cheek. Then came the audio, the call, her voice unmistakable, let her raw in that condo. She was never part of this family, she should have been easier to control. The silence that followed wasn't shock, it was surrender. Everyone knew what had just landed. The judge leaned back, tapped his pen once, twice. This court finds no grounds for the petition, he said. Finally, the evidence confirms clarity of mind and direct intent from the deceased. The language used by the plaintiff suggests deliberate exclusion, not misunderstanding. He removed his glasses. This court does not resolve emotional wounds, it enforces the law. And in this case, the law is clear. Gavel drop, petition denied. Zoe stood, fists balled but unmoving. Mom didn't rise, her hands folded in her lap, eyes glassy but no tears. I picked up my folder and walked out, no glance back. On the steps outside, a few reporters lingered. One mic reached forward. Do you have anything you'd like to say to your family? I paused just long enough. No, I said it already. I just used quieter words. Then I kept walking. The house was quiet when I returned. No cars in the drive, no voices inside. Just the hum of Lake Michigan and the rustle of wind against the siding. It looked the same but lighter, like something had been released. Attention maybe, or a lie. I moved through slowly, fingers brushing the old banister, straightening a corner of the hallway rug, letting the quiet teach me what stayed and what had finally gone. In the office, once Dad's then Grandma's, I opened the desk's bottom drawer, still there, the wind chime we made when I was 9. Shells strung with blue thread, fishing line knotted loosely, one shell etched faintly in childish script. KM, oh cuss. I sat on the floor, legs folded, and began to untangle it, not to make it perfect, but to make it whole again, because some things don't need to be flawless to still matter. When Madison arrived, she brought wine and a roll of paper towels. You didn't think I'd let you reclaim your story without cleaning windows, did you? She said with a grin. We cleaned in silence. Two women scrubbing away more than dust, scrubbing years of dismissal and half-buried versions of ourselves. At sunset, I hung the wind chime outside the kitchen window. It swayed in the breeze like it remembered how to dance. Later on the porch, Madison asked, "What now?" I looked toward the water, then he said, "I left that I drifted." I took a breath, but I never left. I was always here, they just stopped seeing me. We didn't toast. We didn't cheer, we sat in the quiet, 2 glasses in hand, watching the lake breathe. When I turned off the lights that night, I did it room by room from the inside. If you've ever felt like the quiet one, the overlooked one, the name they left off the invite, talk to me. Drop a comment, say hello, tell me which part of this hit you hardest, not for applause but for connection, because I know how lonely it feels to be written out of your own story. My advice, don't chase the room that forgot you, build your own space quietly, intentionally. You don't need their permission to matter. If my story moved you, subscribe. Not for drama, but so stories like ours stop being silent. I'm listening and I know I'm not alone.